Okay, so 6:30 almost, and this is my starter. What I need to do is I need to bulk it up. So I'm going to feed it. This is how I feed it. I add water and I'm going to stir in a couple tablespoons of flour and give it a good stir. And I'm just using regular flour. So I tried to wipe down the sides so you can see where it's at volume-wise. All right, let's get started on our bread. So to a large bowl, I'm adding 3 cups of all-purpose flour. I usually add rye for different flavor and nutrition, but I totally forgot about it today, so 3 cups of all-purpose flour it is. And we're gonna add 2 parts water, and we're just gonna mix it really, really well until it comes together in a large clump. It will be sticky, that's fine. It actually going for a wetter dough here. So we're gonna let this come together into a nice form, a nice mixture, and we're gonna set it aside. We're gonna cover it, but what this is doing, this is called autolyze, and this will save us a lot of time. This will just help activate the glutens and make a nice dough so that we can work it without having to knead it so much. And we're gonna cover it. I use a shower cap and just slip it right over. We're gonna leave this for a couple hours. I'll be back probably in about 2 hours. The longer you let it sit, the stickier the gluten will develop. And a few hours later, about 2 or 3 hours later, this is where it's up to. It's past the label here. So we've got a good rise and we're ready to start working with it. All right, so we'll take off the cap, and as you can see, this the autolyze process has made it super stretchy, nice, and really sticky. And I'm just gonna pour the starter right into that well, and it's gonna be about a cup and a half. I'm using a little bit of extra starter because of the fact that I want to bake this bread today. I don't want to do all this work and then have it sit in the fridge overnight. So that's a little trick that I'm doing. It'll rise faster if you don't cool it down in the fridge. So we're gonna mix this in, and it's gonna create a very sticky, kind of lumpy, very watery. It's gonna be a very watery dough. So don't worry, just keep working it. So we're just working this dough. It's we gotta get it really well combined, and the autolyze has really made it very, the glutens have started to develop, and that's what the autolyze does. So we haven't even hardly done any kneading, and it's looking like a really nice dough. I also want to mention that at this point we haven't added any salt because I want to do everything that I can to not inhibit the fermentation process, because this is we're trying to ferment it quicker so that we can bake it today. Before I forget, let's go ahead and feed our starter. So anytime after you use it, you wanna feed it, and it's super simple. I'm just gonna add about 3 tablespoons of flour, and again, I usually feed it with rye, like two tablespoons regular and 1 tablespoon rye, because it gets expensive to always throw away if I don't use it. But I keep this in the fridge, and so you just want to add your water pretty much equal parts and give it a stir, and that's it. Stick it in the fridge. The dough's been covered for about 2 hours. Let's go ahead and check it out. You can see it's super stretchy, a lot stretchier, and we haven't even kneaded it yet. So let's get started doing that.
They're not going to eat it then.
Who?
There's some people. They're watching your cooking.
We're just going to mix this for about 5 minutes.
They're saying nobody cares.
Wow, thanks.
Look at that, Chacha.
Sure.
It's sticky.
You like it?
Yeah.
So here's some better footage for you. I realized it was out of frame, and I'm going to do this for about 5 minutes, and it's the same technique. You're just scooping it and stretching it. And yep, your arm's going to get tired. So you can see how stretchy that is. That looks pretty good for now. It's been about 5 minutes of kneading, and we're just going to go ahead and cover this back up using my handy dandy shower cap. Okay, so it's been about another hour, and I'm about to head out here. You can see it's got bubbles. It's nice and very watery. That's good. And I'm gonna add salt now. So the reason I didn't add salt before is because I don't want to wait for this to ferment overnight. So I'm kind of just not inhibiting the process. I am just trying to do everything that I can to make it as tasty as possible without, oh, I'm gonna wet my hand. As tasty as possible without having to take a long time. So I'll pull this out and just get this all stirred in, mixed in. And basically it's gonna be the same process as before. And you can see it's getting very, very stretchy. So that's good. Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes doing the same stretch and fold. Yes, my arm is getting tired. Yes?
You know there's the case in the Minecraft? And the case in the Minecraft has fire in the case and it has nothing.
Okay, back from the store. So we're gonna start folding this dough now. And you can see it's pretty wet. And all we're gonna do is try to fold it gently on top of each other because it's got really nice elasticity here. And honestly, I'm just winging it. That's how I do things. And when I overthink things, then I never get things done. So this is just to show you that you don't have to think a whole lot. You don't have to do things perfectly. It will still work and it will still taste good. So there, we closed it on itself. And this is also probably not a true sourdough because even though we're using sourdough starter, I'm not going to ferment it overnight, but it is pretty warm in here. We keep it above 70 here in the winter. And so it's going to ferment faster than it would in the fridge. And so although the profile might be different, it usually is when things ferment at different temperatures, it's still going to physically be light and airy, and it's going to turn out good. So don't overthink it. Just get her done. So there we go. I'm going to cover it again. Okay, so I'm going to uncover it. It's been about an hour and a half later, and I'm folding it again on itself. You want to be really gentle because it's starting to create a lot of bubbles, which is really nice. That's what we want. It's going to give us a very fluffy bread. So I'm going to cover this again after I've folded it on itself, and I will get the cast iron pans ready. So here's my pans all ready. I've greased it and put some corn meal on it. And again, for the last fold, it's been about an hour again. You can see those big air bubbles. It's letting you know that it's fermenting and the sourdough starter is doing its job. So this is more like a wild yeast bread instead of a full fermented sourdough starter. But like I said before, it's going to taste really good. Okay, it's risen enough. It's according to however much time you have. Right, for me, it's about 5:30, and it's time for me to start getting my dinner ready. So you get to see my amateur dough shaping skills. This is comical right here. So the idea is to use the friction of the stickiness of the counter and tuck it in so that you create surface tension. I have a fail here. Placing it into the cast iron. Looks good. And you can slice it on the top if you want to vent out. My knife is not slicing, so this is going to go into the oven at 400 degrees. And here it is after about 25 minutes. And we've got a loaf of bread. When you tap it, it should sound very hard and crusty. And that's exactly what this one sounds like. And I will cut it open here. You can hear, well, I'm going to stop talking.
Okay, pretty good. Should I
Yeah, that's good.
Did you make this butter?
Yeah. Well, I didn't make the butter, but I clarified it. Okay, there we go.